Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Season 8 of Stand Up and Stand Out para te y desde. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Nikki Green. Throughout the past 8 seasons, we have worked to showcase some incredible guests with eclectic backgrounds so you can see that success comes in many shapes and sizes. On our path to episode 100, we have some new inspiring interviews to celebrate this important milestone of our podcast. As I add retreats into my coaching program, I'm looking forward to meeting more of you in person and connecting with you beyond the podcast. I hope you enjoy Season 8, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and comments on the fascinating topics we will cover with each new guest.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stand Up and Stand Out para te y desde. Another amazing guest to talk about milestones in their life. Welcome, Peter, to the show. Hi, Peter. How you doing?
How are you? It's great to be here, Nikki. Thank you so much for having me.
So you have your own podcast called Disrupt Education. And tell us a little bit about your show before we get too started with everything else. And who's your co-host?
Yeah, well, my co-host is on episode 34 of this podcast, Allie Privet. I've been podcasting for 6 years, for about 8 years, about 2 years ago. Allie and I kind of combined together. She is an amazing individual who jumps out of airplanes and was a teacher and also is now educating people on how to jump out of airplanes, skydiving. And the Disrupt Education podcast is all about how to do different things in education, change the way that we do a traditional system. And I just wanted to share a bunch of stories of how people across the world are doing that. And you're going to find a lot of opportunities to connect with people doing education differently on that podcast.
Beautiful. I love it. It's such a small world. So, Ali and I met somewhere through the internet and connected to podcast. And then you and I met at a Naperville chamber meeting where I was speaking, actually in person. Can you believe that, kids?
It's funny. I've actually not met Allie Privet in person. I haven't even met my co-host in person, but that's what COVID does and whatever. But yeah, we met. You were doing an amazing presentation on basically setting goals. I was actually going for the Naperville District 203 internship coordinator position. And I thought, let me go into this Chamber of Commerce and see what they got going on business-wise. And boy, was I delighted. I loved your presentation. And it was really, it goes across all ages. So, what you were saying about getting your worth and your mindset, obviously you have the books. It really does. It is something that we are going to use in our business courses and in our internship program.
Fantastic. Well, let's take it on back to who's Peter. Let's learn a little bit more about you and the exciting way that you help and educate young people. I'm really excited to learn more. I know we've talked a little bit off and on, but I think our viewers will be really excited because it's definitely something as the school year is about to start where people are really starting to question, some of our methodologies and really how we can better help our young people become, better adults. So take it away.
I always say my value is helping others find and show their value. I felt like that was a huge miss in my educational experience. I mean, I was a traditional student. I went through high school, got my bachelor's degree in communications with broadcast journalism. Here I am. Which it wasn't a straight line, but I think we're all sold that it's a straight line. You know what you do, you go straight into college, all these different aspects in your life. But it just didn't feel right for me. I mean, I got out of college and I was like, this isn't really what I wanted to do. So I started bouncing around, bartending, doing hotel management, mowing greens and such. And even became an entrepreneur working in the field of broadcast journalism. And I learned so much, but one time when I was younger, coming out of my sales position at Auto Trader, big shout out to Auto Trader, I was in marketing and sales. I got an opportunity to work with youth, and we're talking 3rd through 5th graders, and we were doing morning announcements for their elementary school, and some of the students just weren't great students. But once they connected what we were doing with the morning announcements, recording and editing and speaking in front of a camera, they started to flourish. And that was the bell that went off. That's why I got into education about 10 years after my bachelor's degree. And I just really, from that point on, had a just passion for connecting something that students would be interested in, and then showing them this is how it connects to math, science, English, health, art, what have you. So that was the beginning of everything. And now I'm 22 years in to being a high school business and CTE and now a work-based learning coordinator. Just really living my dream. So that's how it all started.
I love that story. I don't know if you know like some of my background, but most of my family have been educators of some variety, whether they were working for the school as administrators or, somewhere supporting the faculty, or whether they were teachers themselves. One of my grandmothers was a music teacher. And so, education was always such an important thing in my family, but never really with that end goal in mind. It was always sort of like, go to school because you're supposed to go to school, but because I'm there and I'm going to watch you. There was no, and I felt the same way. I was just sort of following the path, and I didn't even really quite know what to take in university. So I liked business. I took business. I figured everything is a business. So something, will kind of work out there for me. But I know a lot of students right now even are, I think a third of this last high school class have taken a gap year because they want to do a little bit more to find themselves before they just jump into a program. So I really love what you do of helping people get more connected with that, value system and who they want to be before they kind of jump into some of those programs. I know some of these were kind of big transition moments for you. So maybe talk about, a little bit more how you got into education, why it's so important to you, and what that creates as you teach and help those kids.
Is a great question. I think it goes back to my own, path. There were a lot, as I look back now and reflect, which traditionally you don't really have that much time to do that in education, but I think reflection is a ginormous skill set. Personal reflection, journalizing, keeping a portfolio of what you do so you can, step back and look at it from 10,000 feet. It really does help you understand like who and what you can bring to a table, the skill sets that you have. So going back into my, in high school, I remember there was a college group of students, and I can't remember what university, maybe Indiana University. And they came to us and they were talking to a few students, and they were doing, it was some sort of work that they wanted to observe and see, okay, what do you want to become, or what is something that you're interested in? And I vividly remember not knowing, and am I supposed to know this? And there was little or no experience outside of things that summer jobs and such. So that is really the key to a lot of this gap pieces that, when students take a gap year, for me, it means that they probably didn't get enough experience or really see all the different opportunities that are out there while they were in high school or even middle school or even elementary school. And, maybe they had like one or two field trips or a couple of speakers or maybe even a career fair come in. But that wasn't enough. There wasn't a lot of interaction. There's still separation from curriculum and reality in many cases to where, not that the curriculum didn't mean anything, it just wasn't connected like it was for me. So that's really why I dug deep into that. Really just trying to figure out ways that I can bring real projects and real people into the classroom and vice versa, and really giving people those experiences. I know, like a lot of people like myself, like like you, I grew up with my father was an educator, my brother's an educator. My mom was lucky enough to be able to stay home. There was a lot of different things there where, I was exposed to things through my family. But in this day and age, you have to have those dual incomes. You have to have a lot of, people are working and busy, and, we just assume students are going to grab these skill sets, these business skill sets along the way. And to me, that is something that I'm very passionate about. I became very passionate about really giving people opportunities that they have never seen or they had no idea that they could do these things at a younger age. And really, that's what we're doing today with the internship program in Naperville.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I talk about this all the time because, of course, my little one's always like, oh, I could just watch it on YouTube, right? Like, I don't want to go to school. And there's always this pushback. But there is such a difference between learning something on video or from a teacher teaching you or in a book and doing the thing and knowing whether it really resonates with you. Like, I was always good at math and, I kind of followed this path. And so I got really good at kind of business math, but it led me into like a degree in finance. And that's kind of the most boring. I mean, it's important and it's critical and it served me well. And it has continued to serve me well in my business. But was that like aligning with my personality and my extroversion and my, wanting to do things new and different all the time? Absolutely not. And so I think had I been exposed to that as a career early on, I probably would have been like, yeah, that's not for me. I think the other challenge is that the world is changing so quickly and careers are changing so quickly that within 5 years, there's going to be completely new careers that don't even exist. And so if you don't start getting some of that hands-on work, you're not going to be able to keep up learning, as quickly as you need to. So I love that you guys have these internships. I love that you give kids exposure, very early on so they can start formulating those ideas and those passions for themselves. I'd love to hear maybe, some success stories or some, fun things that have happened over the course of working with these students.
Yeah, sure. I think one of my top things that ever happened, I was at Oak Park and River Forest High School. I've been at 4 or 5 different high schools, which is different. It's not a traditional even teaching path, which I kind of live my non-traditional ways. But we had a group of students where Hyatt came in and we connected with the Hyatt, the hotel chain, the corporation. And we're talking C-suite level people were coming in and giving our kids opportunities to work on programs. And my mentor actually was retiring that year and we were in business programs. And what they did is they had a new CMO coming in from New York and she was coming from a different company. And they wanted to do a presentation to just show how like high school students or just, welcome her to Chicago. And we got the opportunity to help them pick teams and put them together for this presentation. And it was a competition. And at the time, the chief diversity officer basically chose students. And then we created more teams after, the initial teams went together. And no lie, Nikki, these kids came in on a Saturday morning to prep for a Monday field trip there. It was amazing. And no one, like people were there at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. We opened up the school and there were 3 groups. And, my mentor, who is Doug Belpedio, he is since retired. That was his last year. And he just looked like I have reached the peak. The students are actually connecting their realities and their thought processes and, moving forward. Now, all those students are around 27, 28 years old. And I'm still connected with a lot of them through social media. Every one of them will say something about how that experience, whether they won the competition or not, because there was a winner and there was a pretty good steak dinner that went along with it, said that changed their lives because they were given a chance to do something that they didn't think they were able to do at that age. And that built confidence. And that confidence is something that if you give a young person confidence, not false confidence, they had to work for it, but confidence that they built into something and they got to a position to rub shoulders with leaders of a major corporation in the world, that is a life changer. And that to me is probably one of the pinnacle moments of my entire career.
I love that story. And it really just shows how you can connect better with kids. One of the things we talk about often is that the way the school system is set, it's like, you're going to start it perfect and I'm going to keep taking away from you for every little mistake that you make. And that's not building confidence. It's building fear in them and a scarcity mindset. There's only one A in the class. There's only one chance to get ahead. And I think instead of allowing them to really collaborate and cooperate and learn from others and find mentors and ask the questions, that it's a better way for them to really connect to what they're doing. I know so often kids don't like doing group work because there's always like one person leads, one person, kind of falls behind or, slacks off. But that's the way of life, the way for all of us to continue to do business and we have to collaborate. We have to be able to work together and everybody has to pull their weight and everyone has to ask the questions and figure out, where they're going to contribute and look for the mentors. It's really fantastic. And just can't wait to hear, more stories as you continue into this next chapter. So much new cool stuff I'm sure are going to be coming. I'm really excited because there's so much potential, I think, in our youth. And there is a huge class of kids coming and a lot of us, I think, are burnt out and ready to go. And maybe let's talk about that for a little bit, because a lot of the people that come to me are also teachers that are burnt out, past COVID, that it was a really difficult time for them to not really be able to fully adapt and step into that virtual environment, but then being kind of stuck in different, modes, hybrid and whatever after that. Are you still seeing and feeling a lot of that from the teaching community? Do you feel like we're kind of starting to turn things around, or, are we somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, I'm going to say somewhere in the middle. I think there are some districts who are innovative and really understand that change needs to happen. And I am in one of them. And I think that's what I sought out as an educator. I think that, building confidence in educators is a big deal. I mean, we just talked about confidence in youth. If you have an idea as an educator, the one thing that has kept me going is really trying new things and really leaning in to, who is in my classroom and learning from them. And that has changed everything. Now, I will say that, yeah, there are, it depends on what your culture is in your educational system. There are some that are very, very rigid, and that's just not me. So I just kept kind of bouncing and looking for different areas. And I think that is something that educators really should kind of embrace. It happened for me. I really I got burnt out. I mean, there was a time when I almost left. COVID was a part of that. However, as you're talking to people and finding the people that are doing some interesting things, you and I, Nikki, we connected, and, that was a great thing. Reaching out on LinkedIn and really getting into places where there's amazing people doing amazing things in education, and then giving yourself the confidence to do it in your own classrooms and your own systems. That's really what brought me back into it. The podcast is an out. I mean, if you hear my earlier podcast, I was complaining a lot. I was like trying to scream and yell at the system. I was angry. And then as I grew, I'm like, wait, there's more people doing this. There's more people creating and doing some different things here. So that has led me to a lot of different things in education. But unfortunately, yeah, there are a lot of great educators who are not in the system anymore. They're working and they're doing great things outside of it. And I think we need to continue to find different ways to do some very innovative things within schools. But I've seen it. It's starting to happen. It never happens fast enough for us, but it is starting to happen where students and communities are connecting and really giving these kids like real life skill sets and building portfolios to continue through life and just really make education meaningful. So I never lose hope. There are days where you're down and you're just kicking it. But, to pull yourself back up, you have your connection of people. And the podcast, I got to tell you, having these conversations at the end of the day, even after like a 12-hour day at school, I'm amped up. I'm like ready to go again. So that's kind of the way I do it. But we do need to find some newer ways and start to listen to more of the community aspect of how we're going to do school. And I don't have one answer that's going to fix everything, but my answer that I'm bringing is connecting community with the schools and with the youth, and then having the youth build a portfolio so they can walk outside of school with their skills.
I think that is perfectly said, and nothing could help them more. I love having this podcast to be able to connect with great people like you, to see what we're doing in the community. And whether you're off running your own business or whether you're helping the next generation create theirs, I think the more we can connect as a community to know what's needed to help each other, I think it's really important. Parents are just as tired. We're all trying to figure it out together. And the more we can start having better conversations and listening to each other, then we can really support this next generation, because before you know it, they're going to be in charge of all of us. So we better make sure we've given them the right tools. Well, where can people find you if they'd like to learn more about either podcasts or the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. It's peterhostrawser.com. If you go there, I also have disrupteducation.co. And just find me on LinkedIn as well. My name is unique enough. You may see my brother on there, but that's about it. So Peter Hostrawser on LinkedIn. And then, if you look at just Google Naperville's career internship program, we set up pipelines. High school students are amazing interns, and it's something that we look forward to doing, is connecting worldwide, by the way. Doesn't have to be just in Northern Illinois. So I'm very excited to listen and have people reach out, and we can figure something out to help move education forward.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to see you in person again. I know we're probably going to hang out soon, whether it's at the Naperville Chamber or somewhere in between. There's always fun events going on. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. I hope you learned a little bit and you have some new ideas on how to support our education process and our youth.
Thanks for listening and celebrating our 8th season and 100th episode. We hope you've enjoyed this week's show. Please don't forget to share your thoughts on this topic with us across our social channels. You can find them at the NikkiGreen360.com. TTFN, this is Nikki signing off.